In this video, I'm going to be talking about how I like the Boost Auto powered running boards. Full disclosure, Boost Auto sent me these running boards free of charge to try and make a video about, so I'm going to be sharing some of my candid thoughts. No money changed hands though, and they are not paying me to make this video. Now, just for some background, I characteristically don't like having extra motorized things on my truck. I even removed my stock running boards because I didn't like how they looked hanging down. I kind of like the look of the clean body lines. And so when Boost reached out to me and said, hey, do you want to try our running boards? I had initially said no because I was like, oh, I don't know. I'm, driving in the snow a lot. Like, what if they get ice on them? Am I going to have problems? Like, how hard is the install? I just had a lot of objections. And in talking with my contact over there at Boost, he was very confident in the quality of their running boards and was like, no, you should give them a shot. We're confident you can thrash them. Give them your worst, basically, and see if you like them. Worst case, you can send them back to us. And I have to say, he was right. It is nice having steps on the truck. In terms of the installation, it definitely will take you at least a half day if you haven't done something like this before. My brother helped me, and actually installing and bolting the steps on is super easy. But then doing the wiring was a little bit, they do give you a really complete kit with wire taps. You're basically tapping into the OBD2, the backside of the OBD2 port, and just to make sure the steps know when you're opening and closing the doors. And so all the hardware and wiring that Boost sent was incredibly high quality. It just, again, you're doing some wiring and you have to run the cables for it. And there is one part where you have to run a cable through the firewall and find a way to get it through the firewall. And that just is, it's what it is. Running any sort of wire through a firewall takes a bit of time. So definitely would budget at least a half day to get these installed, but it's totally doable if, you have yourself. I'd recommend doing with 2 people. It's just easier that way. Now, in terms of the actual step operation, they work really well. I've had these in ice and snow and they've had no issue actuating. I've sprayed them with a power washer. I haven't had any issues with shorting. I mean, all the wiring harnesses and the controller and everything are really solid. So in terms of like durability and build construction, these are awesome. I think, they have all these little details. I know if you wanted to get ones that have like an LED light bar across the bottom, they call them the Luma Step, they make those. I haven't taken the truck off-road, but I've driven on some pretty terrible dirt roads in Colorado, taken it in the snow. I mean, these things have been exposed to a lot of junk and they've held up beautifully. The look of these running boards too is very sleek. They tuck up not as close to the frame as like the OEM Ford power deployable running boards, but they give it like a nice little half inch of space, between the body and the running board. And they're pretty quick, so you don't have to wait long at all when you're getting out to actually have the running board deploy. Pretty much goes as soon as you open the door handle. I have about 6,000 miles on the running boards now, so time will tell kind of their overall durability, but so far I've been really impressed. I did have an issue though that I wanted to talk about, and that was with the boards rattling when I was going over bumps and potholes. And if you look underneath, you'll see the motor to actually actuate the boards is at the front. And then they have kind of a slide rail at the back that, balances out the step and also holds the weight of the person standing on the step. And so what happened was I would be driving over bumps or going over like expansion joints, like anything that made the truck kind of twist a bit. And it would cause this like knocking, banging sound almost. Like it was like the back of the step was like coming out and then kind of sliding back in. And so, yeah, it was really disconcerting, and I basically reached out to Boost and was like, hey, what's going on? I hate rattles and I hate noise. And I was like, this is going to be a deal breaker if this doesn't work. And so it turns out that this is actually kind of a common issue when you first install power deployable steps, in that they need to be aligned so that they don't shift or bind when going in and out, or when you're going down the road, they can stay fully retracted. And so actually what had happened was I had tightened up all the bolts and then the steps had settled or shifted a little bit, and so that had created this, you know, looseness or rattle. Like none of the bolts were actually loose, but it was just, again, something was binding. Basically, Boost had a remedy for this. Their customer service was really good, but I did have to go around and basically I loosened the bolts attaching the steps to the arms, the actuator arms, and the motors. And then I loosened the brackets that the motor and then the kind of guide rail were attached to on the truck. And then you just have to open and close your door a few times to basically get the step to settle into its final resting place, and then retighten all the bolts slowly while still opening and closing the door. So it is relatively involved, but it did completely fix the rattle. And so if you're someone who's purchased these Power Steps or Boost Luma steps, this may be a good procedure to try. Is, again, you know, partially loosening the bolts that attach the steps, loosen the bolts on the motor brackets, and then open and close the door so the step actually has a chance to realign itself and settle, and then retighten everything, and that fixed my issue. So did have an issue, but it's resolved. They work fine now, and in the future, if I get any sort of like rattle or anything like that, I am going to just redo the procedure and get the board to settle. And it was really only one of them. It was the one on the driver's side. I try to find and partner with brands on this channel where I know they have good customer service. Do you make a good product, number one? But number two, do you stand behind that product? And the customer service I got from Boost Auto in regards to this rattle was really good. You know, obviously they had a vested interest in, you know, the boards performing well because they knew I'd be making a video about them, but they were just very helpful. They had the procedure like ready to go. The instructions were very clear. You know, there wasn't really any hemming and hawing about what to do. It was like, oh yeah, we've seen this before. Here's what you do in order to remedy that. And so that to me is a big thing with brands, because I think it's really easy for companies these days with the internet to just hide behind their brand, behind a, you know, an email, and to kind of not give their customers the support that they need. But the support I've gotten from Boost has been fantastic. They have really good install guides on their YouTube channel. They're very in-depth. I, you know, again, was pretty skeptical at first of any sort of power deployable anything. And the confidence that Boost had to be like, no, you should try these. Like, we're confident in our product, and, you know, thrash them and let us know if you have issues is awesome. So yeah, if you're looking for something, not too much bling, but very solid step, gives you that kind of sleek finished look on your truck, would highly recommend these. I would just be aware that you will have to invest a little bit of time doing the install, and then also, you know, potentially realigning them if they do shift and settle, which I think for most people, they don't do that. But for some, like me, they might, especially if you're really kind of beating on your truck a bit. If you're interested in getting a pair of these Boost Auto Power Steps, I will put a link in the description. Thank you very much for watching this video. I appreciate you being here, and we'll see you next time here on Power Stroke Maintenance. Cheers.